coming to YouTube. It is your buttery voice host, El Heftismo. Joined by me, as always, is my heterosexual life mate, JJ here.
You're so sweet.
And we are excited, humbled, and honored to bring you today somebody you've probably never heard of, but probably fucking should.
Definitely.
This is Chris Seaver, master psychotic man behind such titles as we got Moist Fury, Wet Heat, Teen Ape versus the Sex Squatch, and of course, my personal favorite, Terror at Bloodfart Lake. Chris,
and
thank
the
you.
Weirdsies.
And the Weirdsies, and probably about a million other things
that we just don't think of at the moment.
Yes. Chris, thank you so much again for being here, buddy. We appreciate you, man.
Show enough. Thanks
Show
for
enough.
having me.
Absolutely. So if you wouldn't mind, just to kind of, in case anybody is not familiar with your backstory or hasn't watched the documentary entitled Zero Budget Heroes, The Legend of Chris Seaver and Low Budget Pictures, which is available on Tubi and Amazon, I believe. Go check that out after this show. You'll get a real more in-depth look of Chris's library and all of his work and all the interesting stuff behind the scenes. But Chris, if you wouldn't mind, for like I was saying, anybody who's not familiar with you and how you got started, would you kind of like to tell us, a little bit about yourself and how everything came to fruition?
Yeah. So I was born in 77, and I think like a lot of kids in that time period, you come out and you're instantly like a Star Wars kid. And I was, I grew up in a interesting family dynamic because my mom and dad were kids basically when they had me. And so I ended up living with my great grandparents and my great aunt, but my mom lived right down the street. My other grandma lived like right across the street from us. All of our family was around, my uncles, everybody, and a good majority were movie fans. And so growing up, I went to the movie theater a lot. And I fell in love with, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And that's mostly thanks to, my great grandmother who would drag me to shit that I wanted to see. Like I remember, like I was like, I'm a huge like Jim Henson person. Like I love the Muppets. Anything.
Me too.
I mean, that guy is a fucking genius. And so when the Great Muppet Caper was coming out, or Dark Crystal in particular, when the Dark Crystal came out, I begged somebody to take me, and my great grandma takes me to that movie, and I'm fucking loving it. I am not scared of stuff like that. So I'm like loving it, and my great grandma was like, "All right, I'm not taking you to anything ever again." And she hated it. And so my great aunt sort of took over that, or my mom and my uncles. And my mom and my uncles would take me to see more of the stuff.
The questionable stuff.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be taking a kid to. And my aunt, she would always take me to fucking like Star Trek movies and shit like that. And I was just like, ugh. Because my bag was Star Wars.
Sure.
And she, we went to see Return of the Jedi and shit like that, and the Indiana Jones stuff, which I loved. But Star Trek for me was just like, ugh, these are like old people not having sweet enough adventures for my little brain, like walking around talking and shit like that. So I didn't like that. So my aunt sort of stopped taking me to stuff. And then it was really my mom and my uncles who took me to see all the stuff that like outside of like Star Wars and stuff like that. They're the ones who really sort of push the horror stuff, the weird stuff, the Monty Python, the Zucker Brothers stuff, all of that stuff onto me, including a lot of the weird or I don't know, new wavy and ska type shit that was happening in the 80s. All of that stuff came from my mom and my uncles. And then in 84, my mom took me to see Nightmare on Elm Street. and I'm 7.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That's
Oh, man.
awesome.
and while it was scary, it was also really fascinating to me. And for some reason, um, again, you can hear this in the documentary, or people who know my work, they've heard this time and time again. But for some reason, the science fiction and the fantasy stuff, any of that stuff could have, pushed me to say, "Oh, I want to be a filmmaker." But for some reason, Nightmare on Elm Street was like, "Oh, I want to do this." And I don't know if it was because maybe at that time, um, I was hearing an audience react to what was on the screen.
Sure.
Outside of, say, Temple of Doom or Indiana Jones. Yeah, I mean, or Return of the Jedi at that point. Um, my audiences were kind of, I don't I don't remember big things like that.
Yeah.
Reactions and
Yeah, like huge audience reactions and
Like the
such.
boos,
yeah,
the
and I
cheers,
did
all that,
certainly
yeah.
after Nightmare on Elm Street, because there were a lot of movies coming out that garnered that type of shit. But like I said, outside of like Temple of Doom and Return of the Jedi, I hadn't heard that. So I guess maybe the screams and the jumps and things like that were happening around me in the audience. I would assume that sort of like, oh, this is fun. Like people are
Right.
laughing, because they're screaming, but then they're laughing afterwards. My mom is laughing, and my mom is like constantly like checking to see if I'm okay. You know what I mean?
No,
Things
yeah,
like
sure,
that.
sure.
Super sweet.
But I'm like, like this is cool, stuff like that. So afterwards, I just remember saying, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to make movies." I didn't necessarily say I want to make horror movies, but I want to make movies. And so that year, for Christmas, the family gets a video camera, over the shoulder camcorder,
One of
and
the big hold it on your shoulder kind of dudes that takes the
Yep.
VHS tapes.
yeah,
Yeah, those were great.
and I sort of I took it. I just took it, and because they thought of it as oh, this is for family events and things of that nature, but I had other plans.
Sure,
and
sure.
and so I just started making backyard, like, comedy horror things with my friends and cousins. Um, and it never really went away. It was just like
It transitioned.
so I just started making movies, and it never left.
That's pretty awesome.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
Seriously,
and
that's
so
awesome.
throughout the years, I just again, I think my bag was definitely like horror and comedy, like absurd comedy. Um, but I gravitated to genre.
Mhm.
I'm not a guy to this day. I don't really like dramas at all, or real life things,
I get
unless
that.
the drama is encased in something that is heightened.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah,
Like
sure.
science fiction, like fantasy,
Yeah,
like
fair
Yeah.
horror,
enough.
things like that. Like you're not gonna see me go see something like Forrest Gump or anything like that.
All right.
That's not for me. It's just not for me.
Which is
Um,
understandable.
but if Forrest Gump had dragons in it, then I'd fucking be like, okay, I'm gonna go.
I
I'm
feel
gonna
that would
see.
have been a better movie.
Dancing my dragon Jedi, will I pay some carrots?
But that's what I mean. But that's like I don't Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List. It's
No, I
I
understand that though.
that's not me. I don't want to see that. Um, when I go to the movies, I want to be taken away. Um,
Mhm.
It's
and
escapism.
and if I'm going to watch something that's just real life, or like shit that happened, and a bunch of like Hollywood people are just portraying what they think happened, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
No, I get
yeah,
that
that.
doesn't do it for
absolutely.
me. I get nothing out of that. That's not entertainment to me. So, um, but if you add laser swords and
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
uh,
Zazz it up a bit.
that type of shit,
Put some stink on it.
a bunch of hobbits needing to get a ring to a mountain. You
We're
can give me
in.
all the drama you want, but it has to be heightened. Um,
Sure.
so I was soaking up, and it's the '80s, and it's just the fucking '80s, and it's the greatest decade of all time as far as I'm concerned. And
Yes, sir.
so I'm
I was
soaking up.
born in '79, so I'm right there with you, bud.
So you know,
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm
Yes,
just,
sir.
soaking it all up, and that's just the food, the music, the TV, and the movies. It's holy shit, this stuff is amazing. And so
Yeah, and it was
I'm
everywhere. It was, like you were saying, it was big, it was bold, it was heightened. You're
Yeah,
coming out of the
music,
'70s
film,
and like
everything.
the '60s, and the '80s was definitely its own thing.
A lot of good
and
things came out of the
that
80s.
Yeah.
had a lot to do with just who I am as a person and me growing up and everything. Um and to top all that off, then the late 80s happens, and our little video store called Video Connection starts renting out shot on video horror movies. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Like, I'm
Like,
in.
I'm thinking like, this is like
Splat the
amazing.
car.
Like these people are doing what I'm doing, but better. You know what I mean? But like,
Mhm.
but essentially they're picking up a camera and just going out and making movies. And somehow they got into video stores. And so I really start like getting
Hammering down.
really getting into those and sort of changing direction on what I want to do. And two movies. I, I don't know if this is in the documentary, but I've talked about it a lot. But um, back in the '80s, we had theme nights, and we would rent all sorts of different genre films. Whether it be like, okay, tonight we're gonna do like Predator, The Running Man, and Aliens, right?
Nice.
Or the horror is, okay, tonight it's all vampires or whatever. Um, and one night for like a Friday or Saturday, I rent Bad Taste and Toxic Avenger back
Yes.
back to back, and this is 1989. And I'm 12 years old, and I see these two movies, and I'm like,
Let's
oh,
go.
fucking! I mean, this is it. This is like,
Right?
this is goofy. This is weird. This is
Yeah. Oh
silly. This
yeah.
is like my wheelhouse as far as comedy is concerned. And then you're getting also the blood, the gru,
Yeah.
the fantastical and the gross and the horror elements. And I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to do comedy horror films.
Well, I think that's also something that, and again, I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the things that I noticed about you is you're kind of an auteur as well. You're kind of, you do everything. So you write, you direct, you do the filming. You did the effects on a lot of them. And
And I
that puts
edit
you.
everything.
Yeah, and you edit everything. Boy, when I saw on the documentary your editing window process, blew my mind. I was like, that's insane. Um,
I wish
but
it
where
was.
I was going with this, and it puts you kind of like, if you look at like the people like Lloyd and Peter Jackson from Bad Taste, like they both did the same thing on both of those movies. They wrote, or no, I don't think he wrote it, or Lloyd rather, on the Toxic Avenger, but directed, edited. Peter Jackson, directed, wrote, and did a lot of the effects in Bad Taste. So that I think is a huge thing also, because you wear a lot of different hats, and that puts a lot of
More pressure on
a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah.
But when you have a vision, that's kind of how it is, and that's kind of how I see a lot of your work.
And that, that can lead to you know, standoffs and stubborn arguments, and why I'm probably not in a more successful position than I could be in, because I'm like, fuck you. I'm gonna
Yeah.
make what I want to make.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
What's
I
the
mean,
problem?
seriously.
That's a dying breed
Yeah.
these days. People that stick to their guns on that kind of stuff, and have that division, and will carry through with it. One of the other things that you touched on that I wanted to bring up was your penchant for very awesome names for movies. Now, I was kind of telling you a little bit, Blood Fart was my first introduction to your work. And the way this happened was I was on a pirate. It was like a website back in like the day. And it was like, you could find these things. They'd have like the cover art, and a quick synopsis, and you can click on it and you'd watch the movie.
Yeah.
So I love terrible movies. It's kind of like my wheelhouse. And I came across this movie that was called Terror at Bloodfart Lake. And in my head, I was like, I don't know what the fuck this movie is about. I am absolutely going to watch this right now, though. And I did. And what I saw, it did not disappoint. It's, that is the one that I push on to everybody when I'm like, have you guys ever even heard of this? You got to check this out. And then I'll loan them my DVD, although probably not anymore, knowing how much that costs these days. But your penchant for very unique titles that draw people in, that's by design.
Yeah, because if I mean, look, just all you have to do is, well, back in the day, just walk into a video store, but now go on Tubi, and look at all the fucking terrible titles that are on Tubi.
There are
just
so many bad titles.
There's a lot of
bad
ones.
Woods. You know what I mean? Shit like that.
The ghost behind shit.
It's just like, what the fuck? But if you see, Terror at Bloodfart Lake,
which was also
like,
my first movie.
Is this shit? So yeah, it's a lot of, it's just, okay, the title should be catchy. The title should catch that eye.
Right. Draws you in.
And same, well, we can get into the covers, which have always bothered me. But
really,
for my films, absolutely, because I get no say in what the covers are. So they always come out like,
even though you do all the work to make these, you don't get to say what you want your front of. That's kind of fucked up, dude.
No, so you get these patchwork, like fucking Photoshop shit shows, and it's
that
just like,
sucks.
Oh, God,
I understand that.
Every time we would pay an artist to do a cover, the company never took it.
Really?
It still boggles my mind to this day.
That would piss me off. Seriously, that would make me mad.
Yeah, that's so I guess there is a limit to how much control you have over that stuff then.
Yeah.
Especially when you man, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So the titles just came out of that, and sometimes the title comes first, and then I make the movie around that.
Okay.
So it just depends, but it's and not all of my stuff is eye catching like that, but it certainly helps, and it can be funny. You sort of know what you're getting into. Like, I think a lot of indie filmmakers take themselves too seriously, and what they're trying to do, and I've never tried to disguise what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we are the first people, starting with the title, we're the first people to tell you, oh, you're about to watch a shit show.
Yeah. Dude, it's a wild ride, though. It's such a fun ride. Yeah. And I mean, again, it's one of those, if you come out of a movie disappointed by the title, like, Mulva Zombie Ass Kicker, if you come out disappointed from that movie, that's your fucking problem. That's on you.
People, listen, it's an acquired taste. This stuff isn't for everybody at all. Like, this is bottom of the barrel shit. Like, and you got to have that sensibility to sort of get on board exactly what we're doing, and understand what we're doing. And you can either
get on board or no,
that wasn't for me, or oh man, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. I love it. Like, there's not a lot of in between, and we're okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't set out to really, even my fucking most mainstreamy type shit, which is like something like Geek War or the Weirdsies, I can't help but make it fucking weird or gross or odd, or
that.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just never gonna happen.
Well, Matt says he totally agrees. That for a cheesy movie that doesn't take itself seriously, versus the ones that take itself seriously and don't hold up. I know a lot of people are looking forward to watching more of your stuff now, because, like me, and I had seen Evil Dead Inbred Redneck on, because there was a slew of your stuff that was on, I want to say a couple of years ago, on Amazon, and I was shocked as hell because I found Terror on there, and I was like, no way. And then it had like a bunch of your other stuff on there too, and I was like, well, Chris Seaver, I was like, I know that name, that's the Bloodfart guy. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, and I was like, cool. Well, let me watch this. And it was another one, and it had Caspian, and it had Leo DeChamp in it, and I was like, it had all these reoccurring characters. Then I was like, wait, these guys aren't just from Blood Fart Lake. And then you go back to watching Mulva, and they go to the Van Brunt house, and Trent Haga plays James Van Brunt, and it's like, I love that it's when they say the Seaververse. Yeah, it's the Seaververse. It's actually wild, man.
And Jimmy is before that. Jimmy's before, Mulva. Jimmy is a real person. Jimmy Van Brunt.
That's so great.
He grew up with, again, my cousin Casey.
Okay.
And I met him in the mid '90s, and he's a gomer. Jimmy is like one of the sweetest.
I love that word. Nobody uses that enough anymore.
Sweetest dudes out there, but he's such a gomer. Like he's so easy to make fun of because he kind of makes himself a target.
Sure.
And so, we started doing Jimmy Van Brunt in my stuff in the '90s. Like Jimmy is
he's a staple.
He loves it. He
loves
it. Like,
I'm sure he does.
We've sort of carried this on, and Jimmy is a staple of these films and stuff like that. And Jimmy himself is in Anal Paprika 2 and Anal Paprika 3.
See, that's next on the watch list. There's a bunch that I have. I have a Seaver backlog.
Now we know what to watch.
Yes. So I wanted to start with your earliest stuff. So I started watching Mulva, and I'm like, Mulva's not his first stuff. I was like, I got to go backwards, but it ended up being late. So I will go back and watch your stuff. This guy here has watched more of your movies than I have in like the past day or two.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of movies that aren't available. They're only available through me.
Okay.
The only way you can get them is if I offer them. I would say the first 10 years of LBP from like 91 to, whatever, you can only get through me.
Okay. All right.
Interesting.
They're not available anywhere.
Okay.
Unless somebody uploaded them and put them up, which is fine.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I don't care about that.
Well, I haven't done that.
Most people be like, "That's my shit. I made that."
Found Mulva, Inbred Rednecks, and Blood Fart on YouTube, which is great. I mean, it isn't because you're not seeing any money for that. But from my perspective, I should say that's. I don't know because it sounds dick because you're not getting any money out of it, but like it's an easy way to be turned
That's not your
on to
fault,
some of your. No, it's not. But if I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like for me, I would rather have like 5 people see this shit and one person say, "Oh, that was great," and I'm gonna go try to find more of this garbage.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what I mean?
no, that's the whole thing too. My brothers, my friends, that is like I said, Blood Fart is the one I push on them because, in my opinion, I know you have your favorites. The reason I dwell on Blood Fart so much is because it was the best representation, I think. And granted, I haven't seen all your stuff, but I think of like what you guys were about. And like a small knit group of friends taking place in like, Canandaigua. I'm from, Clifton Park. We live, I work in Albany. We're all from up, you and Benny Boy are from Rochester. Yeah. But local boy made good, is kind of cool. And a lot of the jokes in it. And dude, Josh's acting. Can we just talk about Swire for a minute here? Because I don't feel we can bring up low budget picture with talking about Swire. The guy is he's a fucking legend.
Yes, he is.
Funny.
His range is amazing to play both. If you think about it, the antagonist and the protagonist for both. Because Ben's kind of like a hapless fuck in Blood Fart Lake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just kind of there. But Leo DeChamp and Caspian are like, but they're played by the same guy. And my brother brought up the incredibleness of his range. And what's it like working with people that because they're your friends, so you know what they're capable of. But when you see it, is it kind of like, yeah, man, I'm so glad I wrote this this way? or do you allow them a certain sense of ad-libbing that lets them kind of bring out what they would bring to the character?
You know, uh, yeah, again, they're my buddies. And I think the advantage of this particular group is that they have been with me for over 20 years. Um, and we have a shorthand. Do you know what I mean? This group, for the most part, they're not actors. Really, none of them do it. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
They are Chris Seaver actors. So they came into this sort of um I guess what I want to say is that it's collaborative. When we put a character together, it's a lot of us just sitting down and throwing shit at each other.
Okay.
Like literal shit? That sounds
Yeah,
messy.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I wouldn't be
I mean, that doesn't surprise
surprised,
me.
but
Yeah,
So
no.
and how it's almost never how they see it. It's Chris, what do you want for this guy? Or this girl or whatever it is. And I'll say something and then they'll try something and we will sort of play off of that and I'll have them do a little more, they'll do a little more and I'll say, "Okay, yes or no." Like that's how that is. So they're developed really organically, I guess, in that
okay.
way. It's
So
not like
it's a little bit script and improv. It's a little bit of both.
well, the improv the improv is almost a no-no. Um,
Okay.
Okay.
I am very I mean,
You know what you're looking for.
I really like my scripts. You know what I
You
mean?
do.
You know what you
Yeah.
want in your head. You
You're
make
very-
these people. This is what you want them to say.
And your writing is actually very eloquent.
It is
when
very,
it's so funny. It's
articulated.
yeah, it is. It's very articulate.
Thank you, thank you. Well, so yeah, I'm very much like, this shit is funny. It's gonna be enhanced with you guys saying it. You don't need to add anything. What'll happen is if there's something that one of them will do after the line is read and it's something that they add, in addition to what we do, that is where the ad libbing comes from.
Okay.
And
All
it can
right.
either be a yay or a nay.
Mhm.
I'll be like, okay, well, that's not going in. That's just dumb gibberish. You know what I
That's
mean? Like,
fair.
and there's only a couple people in the group that are comfortable with that.
Those
A
are the ones
good,
that sleep on the blue couch, right?
well, so there's some people that I don't like doing it because it's terrible and I almost never use it.
Okay. Fair
But
enough.
there's a couple like Jason McCall. He will say what's in the script, but then he adds this. He'll add just a little flourish or a little bit of tasty chunk uh, to it, and almost always I'm like, oh, that's great. We're gonna keep
Nice.
it. You know, but most of the gang hate it. They don't like ad libbing.
Okay.
And they're not good at it. So they
Okay.
prefer if
To
I'm like,
read.
we're sticking to the script.
Okay,
know?
that's
Fair
fair.
enough.
There was a question.
Josh
Jeff,
is one who does not like to ad lib.
he's a fantastic actor. So Jeff asked, if given unlimited funds and rights, what big screen pick would you remake in your own creative theme?
I'm actually kind of want to know this.
I
This
do
is a really
too,
good
yeah.
question because I'm like, wait, ooh, well, that could be great.
I don't know.
But we broke him. Oh boy.
Remake?
Just seem like a guy who does remakes.
I would rather do my own shit and then remake my own shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, it's funny. I always go to something like Teen Wolf. And I did Ski Wolf.
Yeah, Ski Wolf. I was going to say, yeah.
But I would do Teen Wolf. And I would, because to me, that is one of the one, I fucking adore that film. And
It's a good
two,
film.
it's
Yeah.
kind of what the 80s were all about.
Yeah.
It's just you throw shit at the wall and
See
an
what
executive
sticks.
says, "We're doing that,"
Yeah.
you know, and it can be a fucking hit. Do you know what I mean? Like, just because the time was just what it was, and the creativity was fucking all over the place. And I think I would have a ball doing my version of Teen Wolf.
Would throw money at that.
You
Mhm.
know, something like that.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Where I could really fuck with the genre. Like, oh man, I would like if I got to do a new Porky's film.
Oh
You know
my
what I mean?
God.
Like,
I
Dude,
would
that'd be
watch-
amazing.
I would
You know,
watch a
or-
Seaver Porky's film.
Bachelor Party or Revenge of the Nerds or things like that. Like,
I would watch
that
any
is
of those.
my
Yeah.
Like,
wheelhouse.
shut up and take my money
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Shut up and
that's-
take my money.
That's definitely a shut up and take my money situation.
So,
Um,
but
how-
for the most
did-
part, I would rather like,
do your own thing.
yeah. It
Is
would be
it-
nice to have the money.
I think that's how it is on every shot,
to
though,
do my
or
own
every
thing.
shoot. You know,
Mhm.
So,
I'm asking all the questions. Do you have anything you want to ask him real quick?
Is there anything that you wish you could like redo out of everything you've put out for movies? Is there one in your head you're like, I wish I changed this, I wish I changed that?
oh
Or you
yeah, I
just
mean,
look at it all like, nope, that's what I wanted in my mind. It's my vision, so I'm just gonna let it all go.
no. There's, I mean, you may have heard it in the doc. I think out of the like 65 movies I've made, I like 15. You know what I mean? I don't like a lot of my films. Now that's different from saying I didn't have fun. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
Exactly.
right,
No.
sure.
I get that.
And we didn't fucking laugh our asses off. But in the end, it just didn't become what I wanted it to be. And there can be a lot of versions why or reasons why it didn't turn out how I originally saw it. And then there's films that I mean, you brought one up, that fucking whatever that Evil Dead.
Evil
redneck-
Dead. You can't.
Which
I love
is
that you
Evil Dead
can't remember
redneck
the
I
name.
mean,
of your
that's
own
not
shit.
even
That's
my.
great.
That's not even my title.
Wait, really?
Um,
What was your title for it, if I may ask?
I don't think I had a fucking title to it, because I didn't want to do it.
Oh,
that
you
was
didn't
an-
want to do it?
Not at all. And I'm surprised you can't tell. Because like
Now
we hated making that. It was so what we did was we pretty much put less than zero effort into making that thing.
really okay.
We made fun of Ron Bonk through the whole goddamn movie, and nobody picked up on it.
Oh, I do now. Now that you mentioned that, I was like,
I've seen this one yet.
because Ron was like really into like if something sells good for him, he wants to make 10 of those.
Do you want to explain to everybody who Ron Bonk is, real quick, who might not know?
Ron Bonk is the president of SRS Cinema,
Okay.
and he's been doing it for years. He's an independent filmmaker, but also he's a producer. And Ron had a hit, I guess, with some sort of redneck horror movie, and he just wanted to keep making redneck horror movies. And almost everything that he pitched to us was, "Hey, I want a redneck."
I want a
And
redneck
A
zombie
redneck this,
movie or
redneck
something
that.
like that.
yeah, and I'm like, oh, I don't. These fucking. I don't find that stuff entertaining. I don't find it. Certainly don't find it amusing. So like, I don't want to do this type of shit. So, but what it would be is, okay, well, you get to make, say, Deathbone if you make this.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
how-
It's a tit
sort
for
of-
tat
Yep.
kind of deal.
Well, that's
Okay.
what would
you
happen.
want, but you make me what I want.
Yeah. And so there's quite a few of those
Okay,
Um,
makes sense.
where it was just either I needed to pay rent or I get to make what I want if I do these shit shows. And that's one of them. So there's movies like that where it's just we just put no effort into it, and kind of poke fun at it, and but it still gets out there.
Okay.
There's a movie we did for again another redneck movie called they called it Close Encounters of the Redneck Kind or something like that.
Oh God.
It's SRS, and I didn't even finish the fucking movie because I was like, "This is so dumb. This is
Like,
just
didn't
so
finish
dumb."
watching it or finish making it?
No, I didn't finish making it, but
Oh
somehow
wow. They just took
SRS
what they had and just
SRS finished it and put the fucking movie out.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's
fucked up.
dirty, yo. That's
Because they
dirty.
needed that redneck movie.
Did you get any money off of that or no?
No, I don't, dude. Like, you don't even want to know, like what, like, shit, man. These movies make no money, and I get nothing to make.
That's too bad. That's
You know
too
what I
bad.
mean?
That's a goddamn shame, to be honest with you.
The
I mean, I'm
biggest.
not saying you should be living large, but I mean, well, maybe you should. Your stuff is
I don't
definitely
want to. I don't
niche.
want to live large, but I would like to live comfortably off of my art.
This stuff
Which makes
makes
sense. I get that, definitely.
Yeah, what
Um,
you've
I
put your
don't.
heart and soul into, and
Yeah, I
sometimes
don't.
nut sweat.
I don't need fancy.
I heard that somewhere. I think Ben told me that. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
Well, from even just a small talk that we got, like it's always what I go back and say to you about the shows you do and the shows I do on YouTube, that we have a small like knit group of followers who dig what we do. Don't care what we do,
Yeah.
but they enjoy it. It's the same thing with his movies. Like everyone who loves his movies love them because it's something about it that draws them in and pulls them into a different time. Or like, this is amazing. Like for me, when I watch your movies, I laugh through the entire thing. Danielle yells at me to shut up, but I'm in tears all the time, just laughing because I'm having the best time watching these movies. So it's the same thing as we do here.
That's awesome. That's it's great to hear, and that's, I guess, ultimately, if you don't want to be cynical about it, you can say, well, that's the best stuff about what we do.
Mhm.
you get
First-
paid in satisfaction.
First and foremost, it's to make us laugh.
Yeah,
And,
Exactly.
And
Yes.
then the cool whip on top is if it gets to make somebody else.
I'm sorry. The what?
The cool whip.
There we go. I was waiting for you to say it correctly. I was like,
So, and that's great. That's somebody, you've found somebody who also has that open mind to enjoy the stupid, to enjoy
Sure.
the absurd, and to sort of get the joke. And we've always said throughout the years that a Chris Seaver movie is a joke. The whole thing is a joke, and the end is the punchline. You know what I mean? Like, you're going into it. I mean, if you're going to critique this thing on any sort of real, serious level, the joke is on you. You know what I mean? Like,
Fair enough.
because that ain't happening. Like, they're sort of critic proof. We know exactly what they are. It's just that person didn't enjoy it. One man's poop is another man's chocolatey goodness. You know what I mean? Like,
boy, did you
I'm
see
keeping that one. I like that one.
so and I think early on it probably bugged me, to get criticism like that. But it's just like,
Sure.
as time went on and the more stuff that we were doing, and I guess it helps going to conventions and seeing your fans and getting to meet your fans and seeing that there is an audience for this stuff.
Mhm.
It just kind of, you put all of that into perspective, and it's like, I'm reaching the people that it needs to reach.
Yeah.
You know what I
Which
mean?
is
Like,
key.
it is finding the people that are my people.
Which
You know, like,
I think kind of not supersedes money, because money is fucking nice. But
Mhm.
I think, like, as an artist, that would be extremely, just like, yeah, finally, like, somebody gets it. It's getting the people that should get it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
In and of itself.
and that's, at the end of the day, that's pretty awesome. And this documentary really, I had this.
It's a good documentary too. They did a really good job.
Yeah, they did.
Well,
They did really,
I mean,
really good job.
Zach was, I was shocked at what that thing turned out to be.
Like, in a good way or bad way? Would you
No,
say?
in a great way. I couldn't.
Oh, I
believe
was
it.
like, thank God. I was
Yeah,
like, well,
okay.
hey,
I was like, I hope
enjoyed
not,
that,
because yeah, it was like we enjoyed the hell out of that.
yeah.
Well, because like we had three different people approach us to make documentaries throughout the years, and they've all failed. And one of them straight took the footage and disappeared. never saw this person again.
That's
So that really soured me on the
You want to
whole
put
thing.
anybody on blast right now, or
No, I can't even fucking remember his name. I mean,
that's
this
too bad.
this was over a decade ago.
Oh man.
Well over a decade ago that this person shot for a year and then disappeared.
Well, if you see this, we're looking for you now. Whoever you are, now we're looking for you.
They're in some dingy basement masturbating to it as we speak.
What I'm saying is, people have tried to make a documentary and just kind of fucked it up.
I get that.
And didn't come through with it. And so I didn't have really any interest in being anywhere near this thing. Like.
So what sold it for you then?
So I got to know Zach. I got to know him. I got to know his wife.
Oh, that's cool.
He started shooting a lot of our Crap from the 80s episodes. I just got to know him as a person. And I got to sort of get his perspective on why he really wanted to tell this story. And so, it took like months for me to say yes. And I had to go to my friends and say, do we want to do this? Do you know what I mean? Like, and they were all like, if you say yes, we'll say yes.
That's some good friends, man.
Seriously.
Oh my God. They're the greatest people in the fucking world. Like,
oh,
I'm so happy that, I've had these guys for like 25 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and I think it shows too. I think it definitely shows in a lot of the interviews on the documentary, and I think just in your general way of filmmaking and your approach on everything. They're just doing all this with a close knit group of friends, and you guys are just pumping these things out. You know what I mean? But you can always count. The ones you can count on. And the ones that'll be in your corner. Yeah.
And I think the combination of knowing Zach, knowing his intentions for the doc, and then ultimately saying to myself, okay, this would be a really cool video time capsule of what me and my friends have done for decades. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Outside of just having the movies, but really sort of like a photo book, a time capsule of our time together.
Because I feel there's a lot of stories tied with those. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you remember on this shoot, and you might not remember it right away, but as soon as you're rewatching it, you're like, oh fuck, you remember when this happened? So, and then you guys share a laugh, and you're like, oh, that was awesome. And it's a little bit more to it. You know what I mean? It's a lot more personal and a lot more intimate.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so I said yes. And in 2019 he started, and he did like 3 years of his life on that thing. And then it came out. I mean, he took it around to festivals in 2022 and won a bunch of awards and shit like that.
Oh, good for him then. Seriously.
And then it finally came out last year. And I just think he did such a great job.
It was a very good doc. It was a very well done documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was very well done.
And it hasn't really done much for us. I don't know how many people who have actually seen it, or I'll get
links in the description below and on the Facebook thing, guys, if you guys want to go watch this afterwards.
I'll get some people from time to time who said, hey man, I watched your doc and I want to see your films, and all that stuff, which is awesome. But I mean, it didn't really, ultimately hasn't done anything great for us. But again, we have this thing now. We have a time capsule that is right there on the shelf. And, if I want to get nostalgic and think about my buddies,
hell yeah.
I can pop that in and be like, man, we
did it. We did something. We had some fun.
Do you know what I think is cool about it? Like, say his kids have kids and their grandkids, like they can show them like this is what grandpa and his friends used to do, or great grandpa. Like, it's cool for like him and his friends in general, because they can show everyone in their family as they get older, like, this is what we used to do when we were younger. which I think is a very cool way to keep you like intact with everything down here.
I agree. I think that's
So I think that's pretty
cool,
awesome.
Yeah. So good for you, Zach Oliveras.
Yeah, right. So let's bring up his name has come up a couple times. Oh, by the way, I want to shout out Ben, one of the greatest guys I know, Ben Scrivens. What an awesome dude.
Ben is a wonderful human being. Ben
He is one of the nicest people I have ever had the pleasure to meet. And he is one of those people where he is who he is. Like if you catch him on the show or off the show, he is the same.
Yeah.
And it's just he's just a loving, very big-hearted sweetheart.
Oh, yeah, I got my shirt, by the way.
Yeah, he got the shirt. How did you end up working with Ben, or maybe meeting and then because I know we all know Blood Fart Lake, huge Fright Rags commercial.
Yep,
which was awesome because I own like 90% of the shirts that are in that.
Yeah, Ben
how
and
did
I
you end
have
up? I'm
known
sorry.
each other for 20 years now.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
It first started because my wife at the time, she wasn't my wife at that time, she was my girlfriend, but she had ordered, I think, one of their first shirts, which was a Freddy versus Jason shirt. And it was just a mask with a glove over it. And it was a limited number. And she got that for me as just a surprise, just a present. And at that time, they came with sort of like they came with little cards with
with the pictures on it and the little warheads.
Well, no. It wasn't even that. It was just almost like a small Christmas tag.
Oh, okay.
That had a safety pin connected to the tag and to the shirt.
Oh, because it was the small operations back then.
Yep.
Yeah, this was 2004.
Yeah, so it's okay.
And it was a limited number, and it said Rochester, New York. And I was like, "Oh, where?" I was like, these guys are from Rochester? Sweet. Like, I wanna I was like, "Oh, maybe we can do some shirts together or something, for the movies or whatever." And then that same year, he was doing his first convention, and I was doing my God knows how many. But we were in Baltimore, and it was for the Horror Find Weekend convention. And we were both set up, and this was his first show. And so I run over there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, like, I'm from Rochester. I make these movies, and I just got your shirt, and blah 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 blah." And we just hit it off, and that's really where our friendship began.
That's so cool.
And then throughout the years, like, we just sort of hung out. Ben comes over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Hang out, and
I'm gonna be a fly on that wall. Hang out.
Done
seriously,
barbecues and stuff.
That's what's cool though, man. Again, it goes with the close knit group of friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then so honestly, it wasn't. So when we did Blood Fart Lake in 2008, it wasn't like a okay, I'm gonna promote Fright Rags for any other reason than to be like,
this is my friend, and you want to like get his stuff out there.
Yeah, I like my buddy Ben, and I'm gonna make a character based on Ben. He knew about it. He was like, here's a bunch of shirts that you can throw in the fucking movie, and we were just like, cool, man. And that's where that happened. It really was.
And Mike too. R.I.P. Mike. Mike was a good dude too.
Oh, absolutely, he was.
You think early Fright Rags was Mike and Ben.
And what's great about Ben is like, as much as we have a lot of things in common, and as much as we can laugh and hang out and be buddies and stuff, like my stuff really isn't his type of stuff. Um,
I get that.
like my movies don't readily appeal to him at all. But he still gets behind them. It because he's my buddy, and I think because we sort of came at this like entrepreneurial spirit, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
We're buddies who love what we do, and just did it from scratch. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah,
just did it.
absolutely.
So he's not necessarily the biggest fan of my films and the content, but you better believe he's right there, like pushing it and donating. He's given us so much money to make these movies, and
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I
he's a
mean?
sweetheart. And
Yeah,
to be fair, Chris, I've been pushing for a Blood Fart Lake shirt for years. Go back and watch some shows. Anyone with Ben on it, I've always been pushing for it. So
yeah. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Come on, believe.
Believe me, I've wanted him to do some Chris Seaver shirts, and
I will
he
buy
just
some. Come
he
on,
just
Ben.
won't.
Like we
Yeah, I
will
know.
take our
I've gotten at this point. It's become more a joke than anything. But if he ever actually does, I know a dozen people that would fucking put out money.
Yeah, I mean,
For that
people
shit,
would
but
get it, but I think
people would buy it. But
it would have to be a limited amount. You know what
yeah,
I
a
mean?
very limited
Yeah.
round. Like yeah.
And so one can dream. One
Yes,
can
one
dream,
can.
you know.
Many can dream. We'll have to start a GoFundMe for that.
So, do you have anything planned for the next year up? Any films you got like sitting on the thing you're trying to write down, or any like ideas, or like even a concept of an idea? You're like, this is something I want to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's always shit, always shit. It's just things shift, things
I
change.
get that.
Earlier in the year, I had a whole. We even put out like a graphic that had like 5 things that we were going to do for 2025, and those probably won't happen now.
Uh,
Not that they won't happen, but I don't see them happening in 2025 because things just shift, like priorities shift as far as
Yeah, I get that.
what I think I should be focusing on and what I shouldn't be focusing on. And I did this thing in 2022 called Wellsville Nights, and it pokes fun at 80s and 90s teen soap opera high school shows.
Okay.
Um,
okay.
and that was developed during the pandemic. Um, we wrote the entire first season. We wrote the arc for 4 seasons, and we
Oh,
shot
wow.
the pilot of it in 2022, which you can watch on Equip from the 80s. We put that pilot up finally because I was tired of nobody seeing it. But and then in 2023 we were going to go full bore into the rest of that season. We were going to shoot more of Wellsville Nights.
Mhm.
And then J.R. Bookwalter comes a knocking again. Um, and JR and I had not made a movie together in like a decade. And before that, I made 14 movies for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so this was like, oh wow, okay, this is new. This is interesting. Not only was he coming back into the director's chair after 23 years for his new movie, but he was asking me, "Do you want to make a new movie? Let's make a new movie together." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, man, let's do this."
Seriously.
And so ultimately, that led to the movie we made in the summer of 2023, which he won't let me talk about. It's not out. I'm kind of bummed about it because he he basically said, "I don't know when I'm going to put this out." So
So it's just in the can and just sitting there.
there's things that needed to be done to it.
Okay.
the movie is edited, but it doesn't have the color correction or the sound mix, and that was
Okay.
something that JR was going to do himself. He has not done those things.
Gotcha.
It's a shame he won't like kick it back to you and be like, "Here, finish what we
I've
started."
asked.
I'm sure you have.
I can't imagine
sure
you haven't,
you
but I'm
have.
saying that still
If I
sucks,
had
though.
the money, I would buy the movie back from him.
Oh, that's too bad, man.
But I mean, he paid for this movie to be made, and you would think that he'd want to get this thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Get your money, or at least some of your cash back for
Sure.
it. Seriously.
So, I would assume that at some point in 2025, this movie I did is going to come out. So we did that.
Untitled Chris Seaver project.
Yeah. And I really don't know why he still won't let us say what the movie is. I've put up pictures of the making of the film, which he thinks is fine and all that stuff.
Is this Stoinkmare? Or no, is that something else?
No, this is Stoinkmare. So we did Stoinkmare.
Halloween. Oh yeah, because I'm thinking that because I
That
didn't
was
hear.
that was 2019.
Oh, okay.
That's on the Stoinky Saga Blu-ray.
The Stoinky Saga.
We did Stoinky Beach, a Stoinkmare Before Christmas, and then a Stoinkmare on Halloween Street.
That's the one I was thinking of. The Stoinkmare on Halloween Street.
And that is on its own Blu-ray, the Stoinky Saga.
Oh man.
But no, he won't let me like say what it is.
Oh, that's too bad, man.
It's ridiculous, but it's awesome. And Debbie Rochon is back.
Oh no!
Oh, that's awesome.
She plays one of the main characters, and she's fucking hilarious. It was like she didn't miss a beat with us. 'Cause she did 8 movies with us, and we've been friends since 2000. So it was really nice to get her back into the group. And it's fucking great. It's so fun. We shot with the Red, which is huge for us. We shot with the same cameras that they shot the Hobbit movies on.
That's so crazy.
Insanity. That's cool shit, though.
Were you behind the camera on any of those?
No, I don't.
I was like, if you got to use one of those nice ones, that's
I stopped
good,
shooting the movies a long time ago.
Oh, did you?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, in 2011, when Clint Kelly joined the group, he became our cinematographer. Not only is he in the movies, but he's also shooting the films.
Okay,
That's
because I liked a lot of your cinematography or videography as it would be. I liked a lot of the ways you did.
It's
like
pick up, shoot, and go. That's,
yeah.
And they've gotten a lot nicer looking since Clint.
And a lot lighter too.
I'm sure.
And that started with Sex Squatch. He really made that movie look like it had a budget.
You can smell the Sasquatch shit on our lips when you watch it.
But Sex Squatch. I mean, he started with Death of Lantern, the first Death of Lantern, but pretty much he shoots everything for us.
Okay.
Zach Oliveris, the director of the doc, he shot Wellsville Nights.
No kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's that was because he's also a cinematographer, and he really got what I was going for, and we tracked down like the 90s cameras, the broadcast cameras, to make it sort of look like those shows.
Sure.
Worked out great. But so no, I don't really shoot any of my stuff at all anymore.
Do you miss that aspect of it?
No. It was really, come to think of it, I didn't shoot Bloodfart. No, that was fuck was that? That was this guy named Dominic. He shot Bloodfart Lake. With an HD camera that went directly to like a hard drive.
Oh, okay. Wow.
That was like a big deal for us in 2008.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely.
So yeah, he shot that, and what it did for me was which is normal for any fucking director. So I should have been feeling this feeling for decades, but it freed me up, man. I was so like, oh my god, I can actually like sit back and really like see the movie now. I didn't have to worry about what I was getting. I was just like totally focused on the actors and how funny it was, and
Not have to worry about that aspect of,
yeah,
Right.
putting it
I
together.
just
Sure.
I
Well,
told
it's
somebody
one
what
less thing, you know.
yeah, I was just like, I'd like this. You go do that. Like, and the thing with Clint and I, we're so, we are just so like in tune with each other. We work off each other beautifully, and he gets it. He totally knows the Seaver way of shooting a movie, which is not the normal way to shoot a movie.
No, of course not.
And then off and on, we've had this guy Sean King, who's a fucking another amazing human being, and he's sort of done stuff with us on and off since 2016.
Oh wow, okay.
He co-shot the last feature we did, which we can't talk about yet.
Right. The
Um,
unnamed Seaver fuck
and he
cat.
co-shot Death of Lantern the remake, and he shot some Wellsville Nights stuff, promo stuff with us. But he's a good friend. He's a filmmaker himself. He is the co-creator of the Gooligans. I don't know if you know who the Gooligans are.
I don't, but I will
don't.
have to look into this.
Well, they're fucking awesome.
Okay.
They're this group of friends who put together like their own like sort of 60s monsters television show.
Oh, stop. All right, I'm
All
in.
right, I'm in.
Called
Yeah.
Gooligans. But I mean, we have a good relationship as well. And Sean is a hell of a cinematographer. But yeah, it's just, I prefer not being behind the camera in that way.
That's fair.
I
mean,
really love to just focus on, the people,
Which
and not have to have my eye in
comes
something.
through the camera.
Yeah. And we have like monitors, so I can, I'm always looking at the monitor and going back and forth
Yep.
and looking at them. So I much prefer that.
That's fantastic, man.
That's awesome. Actually.
We're unfortunately about out of time, Steve. But I would love to have you back if
Definitely.
you would be
Yeah.
interested for a part 2 at any point.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it very much, man. Thank you for your time. It's I have so many more questions that I want to talk to you and things I want to get into. So I think definitely a part 2 is warranted. And like I said, thank you so much for agreeing to that. And it's
Absolutely.
on camera, so you can't back out on it now.
No, anytime, man.
But I
anytime.
appreciate you so much. Is there anything you want to say before we go on this one?
I mean, to answer his question real quick, so we had to do the feature last year, which pushed back Wellsville Nights, and then this year we were going to do Wellsville Nights, but I had a huge medical thing happen to me in the summer. Had to postpone Wellsville Nights, but at least I got to shoot Death of Lantern 3, which is out right now. You can get on my social medias.
Okay.
So next year, we're shooting more episodes of Wellsville Nights, and there might be one other little surprise that happens next year. But
okay,
for the most part, we know we're going into more episodes of Wellsville Nights.
If you ever need extras, JJ and I absolutely would love to be
die in the background.
Yeah,
Any
die
movie
in
you
any
make,
one of
like
your
we'll gladly
movies.
just lay it on the ground and pretend we're dead. We're cool.
Sweet, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And the worst part about it is we're actually serious. We're not even lying.
Yeah,
Like,
so if
we're
you're ever
totally
slumming and you need two hacks, you let us know.
That's great.
But but you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Chris, of course, thank you, man. I can't wait to have you back again, brother. It was so good to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to forward correspondence. Guys, go out there and do good things because nobody else is going to. If everybody did one good thing each day, this world wouldn't be such a shitty place. It wouldn't be great, but it might be a little bit better. Thank you guys for watching. And remember, go check out the Zero Budget Heroes documentary right after this and look into Chris Seaver's shit. He is
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Everybody have a good one. Thanks for watching.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Get to the chopper.